Hello, Mystic Travelers, and welcome to Tea and Spirits. Today we're going to be seeing what your higher self has to say. First, we're going to look at one of these archetype cards to get an idea of what the situation is. Then we will look at your tea leaves and then draw tarot for clarification. The Desert is your archetype card. Okay. So the desert is about, well, like here you even see like it looks like the person is kind of like drowning in the sand and reaching up towards the moon. And the moon, you know, represents a lot of different things archetypally. Like obviously it represents cycles. It represents the hidden, the night, the shadow. The moon in tarot is like hidden emotions, hidden situations, that kind of thing. So first off, your higher self is kind of pointing to this idea that there might be a deserted feeling that you're having, because the desert isn't just, hot. This is interesting because the desert is hot, not water, but it's like this person is drowning, right? So it could be that you're drowning in feelings of abandonment. And feelings of abandonment aren't necessarily just things that happen when you are alone or you are abandoned. Feelings of abandonment, you can be in a relationship, you can be in a family, you can be in a friend group and still feel very abandoned, right? And abandonment can have to do with your internal core wounds, or it can have to do with the other person or people, not listening to you. Because what really happens is that we feel abandoned if we don't feel seen, if we don't feel heard, if we feel like we're drowning in someone else's drama or someone else is not listening to us, and we can feel like we're screaming at the top of our lungs, metaphorically, right? And still not be heard. And that's such a painful place. So your higher self wants to draw your attention to that. So let's look at your tea leaves and we will see what other messages are coming up. First thing I see is a knight here, a knight with a shield, okay, holding a shield up. Oh my goodness, look at this butterfly. Very, very obvious butterfly right here. A knight, a butterfly. Let's see, we have a shark right here. There's a lot going on in your cup today. I like to keep it to 3 images, but I will keep that in mind because I see a few more that we might touch base on in a few minutes. Okay. So with those images in our mind, so a knight holding up a shield. So there's a feeling that instead of reaching, that when you've reached out before, you've gotten resistance or confusion, right, with that moon. And so you've learned to become guarded and shielded. And then the other side of the knight is, can you become your own hero, right? Can you become your own rescuer? How can you, because, abandonment wounds, they start in childhood, right? Abandonment wounds often have nothing to do with what's going on at present. But also we often will attract people into our lives relationship-wise, whether that's romantic or not, that mimic those abandonment wounds, that feed those abandonment wounds, because it's what we're familiar with, it's what we know. And so becoming your own support, becoming your own biggest fan. And so there's a feeling here with this knight and shield, like I said, that you have put up your defenses. So the caution there, of course, from your higher self is don't put up the defenses to the point of isolation, but also don't let people in who don't deserve to be let in. It is a delicate balance, right? It's better to have 2 true, wonderful friends than it is to have 15 mediocre or terrible friends, right? And of course, with the butterfly, we're looking at a call for transmutation. And I feel like this, and we'll talk about that more in a minute because that's kind of the advice section, right? But back to the shark. We have this idea of drowning here. And so, a shark is a predator. A shark smells blood in the water for miles. But a shark is also, I think of sharks kind of like tigers, in that they aren't malicious, right? They can cause a bunch of damage. They can kill other creatures and things like that. But they're not malicious. They're just doing what they do, right? And so I get the feeling that in these situations where you feel deserted and abandoned, a lot of times the other person doesn't even know they're doing it because of their own wounds, because of their own things. And that doesn't, and the disconnect there is the feeling that you can see the big picture and you know they don't mean to do it. So therefore, there's a feeling that you have to stick around and take it and teach them and make them, but that leaves you drowning, right? You can transmute yourself butterfly style, but you can't force somebody else into healing that does not want to heal. Carl Jung said something along the lines of like, don't help people who don't ask for your help. He's talking about mentally, emotionally, and stuff, right? Obviously not physically. Don't help people who don't ask for your help, because some people want to drown, metaphorically. And don't drown yourself trying to help somebody else who wants to drown in their drama, who wants to drown in their problems, who feels better being a victim than they do being proactive and having to face those hard things. You face those hard things, right? And you face their hard things. Why should they get a free pass? And it's like I always say, it's like karma is karma is karma. And karma is the results of actions, right? So when you step between that person and their karma, the results of their actions, you get the punishment. If they are, they do something mean and you stick up for them, then you're going to like lose friends, or you're going to get in trouble, or, your life's going to be disrupted. So these feelings of desertion, becoming your own stability, Three of Wands, creating your own path. It's like as she keeps stepping, the path is being created by her, for her, through her manifestation, connected to this full energy, taking that leap of faith. That validation needs to come inwardly. So it's kind of this juxtaposition of the Hierophant and the Wheel of Fortune as well. Because the Hierophant is about tradition, right? And so it's about kind of what was conditioned or embedded or ingrained into your nervous system, into the way that you think. The Wheel of Fortune, with these two sort of moving forward leap of faith energies, it's saying time to turn that wheel. Don't wait for someone else to turn the wheel. Don't wait for external validation. You turn the Wheel of Fortune away from this. You work on the inner healing. You go get the help you need, right? So many people, myself included, do that thing where we're in this situation, right? And we're like, okay, well, I'm going to use my one hand that's not buried right now to help you instead of help get myself out of it, right? I don't know about you, but like I've been terrible about that in my life. And you deserve to not feel abandoned. And if someone's making you feel abandoned, part of it is probably a behavior on their part, and part of it is probably a core wound on your part, right? So why do you either A, become attracted to, and I don't, like I said, romance, whatever kind of relationship, it doesn't really matter. I'm just talking about relationship. Why are you attracted to relationships that have you abandon yourself, right? Why does it feel like it's okay to abandon yourself but not abandon other people? And I mean abandon other people. You shouldn't abandon, people who depend on you, who need you, like if you're in charge of a vulnerable person. But I mean like people who have abandoned you over and over and over again, and you feel like it would be evil or wrong to abandon them. But really you're not abandoning them. You're leaving a situation that hurts you. And you abandon. So why are you attracted to relationships that cause you to abandon yourself? And then on top of that, how can you fill that gap in your own life so that no one else ever has control over your, like, don't give the remote control to your nervous system to somebody else, right? And if a lot of times kind of predatory people will hone in, they can smell it like chum in the water, like a shark, right? They can smell it like a shark. They can smell on you that you have an abandonment issue, and they will hone in and target you specifically, right? So the idea is, how can you get into a place where you can always depend on yourself and you won't self-abandon? Because when you get to that space where you won't abandon yourself, then you won't be, I got tea all over these cards, then you won't be in that situation where you're as vulnerable, right? And so that gives the ideas like you want to embody this butterfly energy. You want to get out of this energy of feeling like that you're a target, you know, for these kinds of people who want to take advantage of your programming around self-abandonment. And to do that, it's about balancing this guarded energy. It's like I always say, like, you want to, you don't want to abandon yourself. You want to shield yourself from, you know, people who would take advantage of you or hurt you. So it's basically like you want to keep up good walls, good boundaries. Just hand the key to people who deserve it, who earn it, who show through their actions that they are safe. Magician, the Star, a lot of major arcana energy here. Ace of Cups, and here we have the Ten of Swords. Okay, so this Ten of Swords, we'll approach it first because this is that energy of abandonment. This is a very dramatic card in this deck. It actually has a more of a sense of melodrama to it than a lot of other Ten of Swords. And so I think with that, the reasoning is that something that to other people might feel smaller might feel catastrophic to your nervous system. That's not your fault, right? And it's something that regretfully is usually done to you in childhood, the way that your caregivers or different things happen. And when that happens, it gets ingrained, and the only way to get rid of it is obviously get the help you need externally, but also like to do the work to get through it, you know. All right, but you have Magician and Star. So Star, obviously, it's showing me that through this transmutation, the Magician being about the alchemical transmutation and balancing of inner elements, you will rise. The Star is, you know, the soft, beautiful light after the tower collapses. The tower is the clarity. The tower is destruction, yes, but that lightning bolt that destroys the tower is clarity, destroying a building that didn't have the foundation needed to carry the weight of the building, right? Like a house built on sand, right, with no foundation. House built on sand with no foundation is gonna crumble. And so the Star is the clarity after that moment. And so this Ace of Cups is inviting you to really get a fresh start with your emotions. We have leap of faith. We have making your own path. Facing this difficult pattern. You know, when people treat us wrong, that's on them, right? That's their karma. I always say don't step between person and karma. But you also have to ask yourself, okay, like for me, I spent almost 3 years in a trauma bond. And I was like, obviously that person, what they did to me was wrong, and that's their responsibility. But why? What conditioning, what shadow work do I need to do in order to, that kept me going back, that kept me tied up? Now, obviously, trauma bonds have another level because there is a brain chemical addiction part, the push-pull. All right, let's take a look at your Cosmic Jester. Everything has a price. Indecision has delayed billing. Everything has a price. Indecision has just delayed the billing. Okay, so I get the feeling with this that, like, when stuff like this is uncovered, there's a grieving period of why I have to go through all this unnecessary pain. I have to destroy the entire foundation of what I thought life and love and all this stuff was about because it was taught to me in a toxic way. And the healthier way might not feel like home. But the longer you wait to start the work, the more expensive, the more painful it becomes. So like I said with my trauma bond, a few months in, I kind of knew something was off, but I was like, oh, I'm just overthinking it. I'm not being fair. I'm not being nice, because if you're a person who's really reflective, you can talk yourself into circles, right? But because I didn't face it then and deal with it then, it ended up being almost 3 years, right? Almost 3 years of confusion, of pain, of the push-pull, that kind of thing. So your higher self is here to remind you that you are strong and you can overcome this. You are not deserted. You are there. Your higher self is there. Your guides are there. If you have some safe people in your life, some friends, an online community, a therapist, whoever it is, focus on your healing and your growth. And remember, if someone confuses you or makes you feel bad or you feel uncomfortable around someone, remember that these nervous system patterns developed in childhood can make people vulnerable to people who want to take advantage. And so just keep that in mind. And like I said, I can't diagnose or do anything like that. This is just, as we say, for entertainment purposes only, just for reflection. But you are doing the great work of alchemy, of alchemizing the inside. And it's painful, and you have two choices. You don't have to do this work, right? But when people don't do it, the price does come due eventually, right? But you're here. You're doing the great work. All right. Thank you so much for being here today, beloved Mystic Travelers.